Hello, my name is Michael Santos. I'm with PrisonProfessors.com, where we're always striving to provide enough information to help any individual who has gone through the criminal justice system or who is going through the criminal justice system. Today I want to talk with you a little bit about custody and classification schedules. Now this is something that should be of interest to anybody who has been indicted or is about to be sentenced or is about to surrender to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Now custody and classification levels is governed by Program Statement 5100.08. You can access that at the Bureau of Prisons.gov website. That's BOP.gov. If you click on the policy statement of that website, you will be able to find Program Statement 5100.08. Now, let me warn you that the Custody and Classification Manual is a very comprehensive program statement. It spans well over 100 pages and it includes details that can easily cause somebody who is not familiar with the custody and classification schedule that the Bureau of Prisons uses, it can cause them to lose their way. Basically, it's divided into several chapters, and it is the objective system that case managers or designators at the Bureau of Prisons use to determine where an individual should serve his sentence or her sentence. Now, there are various factors that are used inside of the custody and classification scoring mechanism. And there are two different types of mechanism. One is the base scoring level. And in that base scoring level, the individual wants to have the lowest possible score. And then there is the custody or security scoring metric, and that an individual wants to have the highest possible score. Now these are objective scores. So the Bureau of Prisons is going to be looking at past behavior to determine what the appropriate facility is for an individual to serve the sentence. On our website at PrisonProfessors.com, we provide some in-depth detail and a very simple calculator that anybody can use to determine what their custody scoring level is going to be, or at least get it close. But it's important, I think, for me to kind of help you understand or help our viewers understand what to be looking for. And the first score is the base score. Let me try and walk you through what the base score means. There are 11 different factors on the base score. And the first one is called a detainer. What type of detainer does the individual have? You may be asking, well, what's a detainer? A detainer is a charge that might be levied against an individual in some other jurisdiction. And that other jurisdiction may want to bring the individual to justice after the current sentence is expired. So to put that into layman's terms, let's say that you're going to prison for mail fraud, but you have an outstanding obligation in some other district, maybe in another state, for a DWI that you never satisfied, or something else, that some other type of program that another jurisdiction would want to bring you into court. If you have that, if you have that type of charge, it is called a detainer. And the Bureau of Prisons is going to assign a number of points for that detainer. It's going to work against you in the Bureau of Prisons when they're classifying you. So that's the first thing that you're going to want to find out is, do you have any detainers? If you do have a detainer, then you're going to want to take steps to remove that detainer before the Bureau of Prisons moves on its scoring mechanism. Then you move to the next scoring mechanism. The next scoring mechanism concerns the severity of the current offense. Again, that is an objective system. Inside the Program Statement 5100, there is a listing of all the different types of offenses that the Federal Bureau of Prisons uses when scoring an offense. Look your offense up. Determine whether it is a minor offense, a low severity offense, a moderate severity offense, a high severity offense, or a greatest severity offense. There's going to be a number of points that are associated with that offense level. And the more you understand that, the more you can position yourself to work around that schedule if you have a high severity level of offense. Number 3 on the metric now concerns the length of time you will have to serve until your projected release date. Now, The Bureau of Prisons requires somebody to have a release date within 10 years if that individual wants to go to a minimum security camp. So it's important that you calculate the number of months remaining to serve, because if you have over 120 months until you're going to be released, you have to serve your sentence in at least a low security facility. The fourth metric on the custody and classification schedule concerns your criminal history. If an individual has some type of criminal history that existed before the current events, that of course is going to count against the individual. Number 5 on the schedule concerns escape attempts. And there are 2 different types of escape attempts. One of them is a serious escape attempt, which would be from any secure prison, and one would be considered a minor escape attempt. And that could be something as minor, they could consider not showing up for court, or even possibly walking away from a minimum security camp on a previous commitment. The 5th score on a custody and classification scoring system concerns escape attempts. There are 2 types of escape attempts that they are going to score. One is a minor escape attempt, one is a serious escape attempt. A minor escape attempt might be not showing up for court, or skipping out on bond, or possibly walking away from a work release program. The more serious escape attempt would be escaping from any type of secure prison. In addition to being minor and serious, this scoring metric will also consider the length of time that has passed since the escape attempt. So you get different scores, whether it happened within the past 5 years or it happened longer than 15 years ago, and somewhere in between there. Number 6 on the scoring metric concerns the history of violence. And again, the history of violence is going to have 2 different types. Minor violence, which may be, I don't know, some type of offense that you got charged with, a simple assault or something along that, a fist fight while you were in college. And then of course there is serious offense, which might include a weapon or something that resulted in a longer prison term. All of this is objectively measured in the program statement. Again, with history of violence, like history of escape attempts, there's going to be a time metric as well. So whether it was in the past 5 years or longer than 15 years ago, or between 5 and 10 years ago, or 10 and 15 years ago, all of that is going to influence the score. Then the Bureau of Prisons custody and classification schedule is going to consider whether you were allowed to voluntarily surrender to serve your sentence. Some judges will allow defendants to surrender themselves to the Bureau of Prisons, and if the judge authorized that, the Bureau of Prisons will take that into consideration in a favorable way. You won't get penalized if you didn't get a surrender date, voluntary surrender date, but you won't get the added benefit either. Number 8 on the base scoring level concerns the individual's age. And the younger an individual is, the more severely the Bureau of Prisons is going to classify that individual. Why? Because individuals who are younger tend to be a little bit more volatile. And the Bureau of Prisons is going to determine or use that factor against the individual, placing him perhaps in a higher security institution. So there are different age levels. I think it's up to 24 years, then there's 24 to 35 years, then I think it's 35 years to 54 years, and then it's over 54 years, gives you a different scoring metric. Number 9 is education level. Of course, the higher the level of education an individual has, the Bureau of Prisons is going to consider that individual knows enough to avoid volatility in prison, and so they will score him appropriately. Finally, number 10 on the base score concerns a history of drug abuse or drug usage. And it doesn't influence it that much, but it's somewhat important for people to understand because, of course, many people who are going into the Bureau of Prisons want to participate in the coveted residential drug abuse program, which is the only program in prison that can result in an individual getting a time cut from the sentence. The flip side is if an individual says that he has a substance abuse problem, that individual is going to be scored differently and adversely in the base scoring level. It may not be enough to move the needle whether an individual serves his time in minimum security, low security, medium security, but it is something to consider. And so you're going to want to understand base security levels before you start arguing for to serve your sentence in a lower institution. Make sure you understand where you stand and what you can do to change it. The second component of the custody and classification schedule concerns custody levels. And that has to do with your behavior since your arrest. And that one is a little bit more dynamic. It's a little bit more fluid. It's something that an individual can influence. What are the factors in the custody scoring metric? Number one is the percentage of time served. Obviously, if you are just going into the prison system, you haven't served any time at all. But once you pass 25%, the Bureau of Prisons is going to take that into consideration and begin dropping your need for higher levels of security. Number two is going to be program participation. It's not much, but if you participate in programs, you will receive some favorable point treatment that influences your custody scoring level. Also, you will see some influence on the third metric, which is living skills. What does that mean? That's really arbitrary. It's really basically getting along with your counselor and not getting into trouble in prison. And if you do that, you are going to be treated favorably on your custody score. The next two factors concern disciplinary infractions. First is the type of disciplinary infraction that an individual receives. And there are different levels, 100 series, 200 series, 300 series, 400 series disciplinary infractions, each of which has a different influence on the custody scoring metric. And the next component on the metric concerns frequency of disciplinary infractions. If you received one, you get penalized in a certain way. If you receive more than one, you start getting penalized in a more difficult way. And that may seem like, oh golf, I won't even get one, but the reality is in the Bureau of Prisons, it's very easy to get disciplinary infractions. And when they deliver a disciplinary infractions, frequently they cite somebody with 2, 3, or 4 disciplinary infractions at the same time. So that has an adverse effect on the custody scoring metric. The final component on the custody scoring metric concerns family or community ties. If an individual can show that he has strong family and community ties, he will be treated favorably, or she will be treated favorably. And you take all of those scores up in the custody metric, and you add those up and you get a certain score. You add all of the base level numbers up and you get a certain score. And then you take those two scores together, and then there's a third component called the variance table. What the variance table does is it will add or subtract certain points from the base level depending on where the individual falls in that matrix. So you may get as many as 10 points added to your security level. You may have nothing. You may have some taken away. It all depends on where you fall within that matrix, which is all covered in Program Statement 5100.08. But again, I know it's very complicated, which is why Prison Professors has created a calculator. Just answer the questions on the calculator and click the little bullet point dot, and it'll tell you exactly where you fall. In fact, it will also include the variance. The one caveat to this is it does not determine what will follow if you have a management variable, which the Bureau of Prisons can impose to give you higher or lower security levels, nor does it include public safety factors, which could be a factor in your case if you have been convicted of a specific type of crime, or if you've got a history of some type of leadership or something along those lines. So it's important to understand the entire metric. If it's a little bit too complicated, just fill out the simple form on prisonprofessors.com and you will get a pretty accurate description of where you stand today, and read through some of the other articles and you will figure out what you can do to influence your security level in a favorable way. I am Michael with prisonprofessors.com. We hope that you subscribe to our channel. We hope that you like us on Facebook and continue to use our resources to prepare yourself for the best possible journey through prisons, so that you can come back with your dignity intact, ready to lead a life of fulfillment and meaning, just as all of the prison professors have been doing, just as we strive to do to teach our clients who retain us to help them through sentence mitigation efforts, or with preparing for prison, or reputation management, or the restoration of civil rights. Whatever it is you need, my partner Sean Hopwood and I stand ready to help. If you can't afford our services, we really encourage you to keep using our free resources and subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you can get this information as we provide it frequently. Thanks very much. I am Michael with prisonprofessors.com. Happy to serve you.